Good evening, bienvenidos. My name is Juanita Senkiz, and I would like to welcome you to the Coalition of Hispanic Latino Issue Progress CHIP Candidates Night. Before we get started, I would like to invite Alicia Pardon, who acts as not only a trustee of CHIP, but also our chaplain, to open up with a prayer.
Merciful and loving God, as we prepare for these elections, send the light of your Spirit into the hearts of all of our nation. Bring peace and hope wherever there is confusion, discord, and apathy. Awaken in us a strong desire to work for the community, the common good of all people, especially the most vulnerable in our world. Enable us to differ and to dialogue with reverence and respect for one another. Pour out on us spirit of wisdom and discernment to help us choose government officials who will lead our country and community in the path of truth, justice, and peace. We ask this in the name of our Lord Jesus. Amen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Tiffany McClellan, Economic Development Director, and she'll be speaking on Issue 3, Renewal Levy for the Lorain Port Authority.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. So, I'm here to speak on Issue 3, which is a renewal levy for the Lorain Port Authority. We're focused on renewing this issue in May, and we hope to have your support once again so that we're able to continue our operations at the Lorain Port Authority. The entire levy fund, the entire funding from this levy that we're asking for goes to our complete operation of our organization. So without this levy, we would not be able to operate in the city of Lorain. So when you think about the Lorain Port Authority and everything that we do, you think about the waterfront, recreation, and all of the facilities that we operate. So we're the owner and operators of Black River Landing. We oversee the mile-long pier on the east side of Lorain and everything that goes along with those. So when you think about all of the events that happen at Black River Landing, when you think about Rockin' on the River, the international festival that comes down to that facility, we're the individuals that are able to host and have those events for the community in town. So this operational funding goes to make sure that those facilities are open to the public. We focus very heavily on making sure that our waterfront is open to the public. We want to ensure that not only are people able to get to the waterfront by going and walking on the mile-long pier and being able to go to Black River Landing, but also that you're able to actually get onto the water, enjoy the water on our shuttle boats. When the Jet Express comes into town, you're able to take an excursion up to the islands or into Cleveland. So we ensure that all of these things continue to happen. But that's just one prong of our mission. Another focus that we continue to be focused on is our our commercial harbor. We want to see the recreation in the harbor continue. We want to see our continued partnerships with entities like the Loco Yaks to ensure kayaking is happening on the river, to ensure boaters are coming in, and national tournaments like the Cabela's National Fishing Tournament is coming into town. But also, we have to remember that we have a commercial harbor and businesses that rely on that harbor being open and dredged so that we can have those freighters come into town. And not only is it a beautiful sight to see them come into town when our bridge opens up, but also it's a wonderful thing for the jobs and the businesses that are able to thrive. So we ensure that that harbor is open to this city so that we can continue to have job growth. Not only that, but one of our main focuses going forward, specifically with our strategic plan that we've rolled out and begun starting in 2019, is our economic development initiative. We've started to strongly partner with entities like the City of Lorain and Lorain County to ensure that there's a strong presence for economic development. we've always been involved in economic development projects, but we really focused on the recreation end of things and making sure that we have beautiful facilities for our citizens like Black River Landing. But now our focus is really going to be on building our relationship with the city, ensuring that we have our programs established so that we can attract businesses and help them in any way to be in the city of Lorain. So this is a huge initiative for us and can only be done through the financing of this levy. So when you think about the redevelopment projects in the downtown area, like the Spitzer Hotel that's being redeveloped by Ariel on Broadway into a conference facility and a new hotel, those are only possible by our levy being funded and us being able to operate here in the city of Lorain to continue to push those things forward. So we expect to see more of this in the future, but this can only be through the help of your vote on May 7th for our levy. So we hope that the community will continue to see the importance of issue 3. We hope that you will continue to support the Port Authority in everything that we do so that we're able to continue to have that recreational harbor, we're able to have the public access to our waterways, so that we can continue to grow in the commercial aspect of our port and continue to have additional jobs in the city of Lorain. But not only that, but to make sure that we have a strong economic development presence within the city of Lorain, and we can continue to have the redevelopment that has started, especially in some of these really distressed corridors like the downtown Broadway district, really continue to grow and thrive. So we would ask for your support once again, and we hope that you will do so. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tiffany. Next, we are bringing up Mr. Joel Arredondo, Council President, who will speak on Issue 10, a renewal levy.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, my name is Joel Arredondo, President of Lorraine City Council, and I'd like to thank Chip for the opportunity to come out this evening to speak on behalf of Issue 10, Renewal Levy. Little history, about 2:05, Ford decided to leave town, so we lost about $4,000 to $5,000 jobs. Along with quite a bit of revenue. At that time, the council who was seated had to come up with some ways how to generate revenue to offset these losses for the general fund. So in 2:05, this ordinance was passed. It was a 5-year renewable levy, once again subject to approval by the public. So this levy was renewed once again in 2010, and it was renewed in 2000 and most recently 2014. The levy generates approximately $2.4 million, over 8% of our general fund, which, if you want to break it down a little more, basically it covers about 15 police and firefighters in the city of Lorain. Without this issue, forward progress would be halted. Once again, we've been down this road before. Most recently, I would say, when I came on board in 2009, we were just getting into the Great Recession. There were cutbacks made. There were a couple individuals here who will speak tonight who were on council at the time. And we had to tighten up our belts. We had to make do. It wasn't very good. Actually, there were 2 times that council gave back monies. I did, 10% most recently, about 3 years ago when we were in financial straits, and some other council people also did that also. So the thing is that this is a renewable levy. This is not new money. I know you're on social media, you see people up there broadcasting about no new taxes. It is not a new tax. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand to say that I do not like taxes. I do not want to pay taxes. But if I want to live in this community, if I want to have a safe community, which I believe we do with our policemen, our firefighters, our street, the progress we have made over the years, reinventing ourselves, going from a steel town, auto worker town, shipyard town. We totally reinvented ourselves. We've come up with new ideas, new strategies, new revenue streams. The administration of Mayor Chase Rittenauer for the past 10 years has proven to be very viable. We have had people on council who you'll be hearing this evening who have attested to their record, to what they've done, made some hard decisions, made some difficult decisions, but those who will be here tonight as candidates seeking these positions, it is not an easy job, but I commend you for making the effort to be a representative of your constituency. Once again, issue 10, it's a renewable levy. We ask for your support. Any place that you go, your friends, family, relatives, if you could spread the word. Once again, senior citizens, people who do not have taxable income, you're not taxed on it. It is the workers. So once again, please support issue 10. And on behalf of the City of Lorain, I'd like to thank Chip again, and also Lorain City Schools for providing this great venue for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. At this moment, I'm turning the forum, the candidates night, over to Mike Ferrer, a CHIP trustee, Alicia Pardon, the CHIP conference co-director, and of course, for the very first time, we have a Lorain High freshman, Iris Rivera. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the CHIP Candidates Forum. We wanted you to understand the intent of the forum. The forum is so that candidates, incumbents, those running for public office would have an opportunity to sort of showcase themselves and sell themselves to the community which they hope to represent. This is obviously a televised event, and we are going to be covering a number of races here today, which is the ward races for the City of Lorain, wards 2, 6, and 7, the Lorain Clerk of Courts, and we will then cover the very large council at large race. The candidates have already been informed of the rules. Basically, the format for the event is they will each have an opening statement. They will then be given questions by our panel, in which they will have 1-minute responses, and then they will be giving a closing statement. Again, one of the things that we ask you to refrain from, candidates, which we're sure you will, is that you are to make no disparaging comments against your opponent. If there's a problem, that problem is within the system. And those of you who may be in office have failed to rectify that system. So you cannot now blame anyone in office. We can blame everyone in office, but you cannot just blame an individual. So we ask that you make no disparaging remarks. If you slip and disobey that rule, your opponent will be given a chance to rebut that statement, but you will not be allowed further comment. So we ask you to adhere to these rules, and we're now ready to begin. Again, I just wanted to introduce the youngest person we've ever had as a student to be involved in our candidates forum, and that is Miss Iris Rivera. She is a freshman. This is her school now. She is here at Lorain High. She is planning and working. I mean, she has excellent grades. She's doing very well. But she is planning to graduate from Lorain High School and then take off to study cosmetic design and applications, which I asked exactly what she wanted to do with that. And she wants to serve as a consultant to everything from movie stars to politicians who apparently don't look that good on TV. So we're very glad that she's moving into that endeavor. And now we're going to begin with our first race, which is the race for Ward 2. So we invite Mr. Dennis Flores and Rob McFarland up to the stage. We want to welcome both Mr. McFarland and Mr. Flores here today. We're glad that you were able to come in and answer some questions and introduce yourself to the community. We will begin with opening statements, and you'll have 1 minute on your opening statement. We'd like to begin with Mr. McFarland.
want to thank Chip for hosting this event and Iris for being here. It's great to see some young people involved in politics. This is my first experience in politics, and I chose to get involved because I believe in civic duty, and I plan to serve my constituents ethically and represent their interests without hidden agenda or ulterior motives. This job is not about me. It's about the betterment of Lorraine, which will be the betterment of all of us. This ward is ready for a fresh face with energy to effect positive change. It needs a councilman who is open-minded and able to make sound decisions while carefully considering multiple perspectives. I'm excited about the opportunity to serve our community with integrity and be a part of Lorraine's future prosperity. Together, we can revive a vibrant economy and enthusiastic community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flores, your opening statement.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to thank the Coalition of Hispanics in Progress for hosting the CHIPS Candidate Night. I am the incumbent candidate, Dennis Flores, for Lorain City Council. I currently am the chairman of the federal programs, and I sit on the Finance and Claims Committee along with the Parks and Recs Committee.
Okay, Ms. Pardon will now ask the first question.
Okay. Starting with Mr. Flores, if elected, what attributes and skills do you bring to your elected position? Please provide an example of how you would utilize these attributes or skills to meet the needs of the citizens of your ward.
I couldn't hear what you're saying. There's a loud echo in here. Is that question number one or two or three?
Yes.
Question number one? Okay, I think my attributes are being able to, go into the areas that are very depressed, and being able to reach across the aisle to speak with people on their issues. And there's a lot of areas where there's a lot of blight, there's a lot of crime, and so being able to go into those areas and effectively communicate with your constituents, and having a knowledge of your Ohio Revised Codes and bring a hands-on approach to meeting with your constituents in those neighborhoods. And those are the attributes that I enjoy. So.
Thank you. Mr. McFarland, same question. If elected, what attributes or skills do you bring to your elected position? Please provide an example of how you would utilize these attributes or skills to meet the needs of the citizens in your ward.
My attributes and skills would include connecting people with resources, as well as my persistence. My day job with Lorraine City Schools, I'm constantly in the community, trying to help our families who are struggling, facing challenges, and constantly reaching out to them and making sure they have the resources they need. I'm sure some of you are familiar with my persistence, as I've been to your house 3 or 4 times. And a lot of the challenges we face here in Lorain can't be solved with a simple phone call, and it's going to take someone with the follow-through and persistence to really make sure we drive some of these issues home and get the solutions that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question goes to Mr. McFarland. What do you feel are the most important needs of the residents in your ward you are seeking to represent?
So, walking the ward, I've realized that two that have echoed true to me is the improving the roads and increasing the safety. And I believe we can achieve those things with partnering with our Lorain Police Department, who's doing some great things in the community despite some of the challenges that they're facing, and as well as just being an advocate for the Second Ward and being vocal, making sure that resources are being channeled back to the Second Ward, which has been neglected.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Mr. Flores.
That was question number 2?
Yeah, number 2.
Well, one of the most important needs, I think, right now an increased police presence. So I think that safety is a big issue. Having a safe and clean environment, brings an attitude that you can be proud of what you have in your neighborhood. So I think one of the most important needs right now is increased police presence, and that's what we have to keep. The renewal levy is going to keep police officers on the street. We need to hire more police officers, so I think that's one of the most important needs right now in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. We'll move to our third question. It's question number 9 on your sheet. Due to the current crisis in Puerto Rico, more and more families are moving to Lorain and Cleveland. Several of these families have limited English-speaking language skills. If they move into your ward, how will you communicate with them? And we will begin with Mr. Flores.
I guess I would communicate with them in Spanish, but being able to find the resources that they're going to need, organizations like El Centro, United Way, trying to get them to those resources and help them any way we can. So I think that would be a first priority, is probably trying to get secure housing for them, food, get those resources that they're going to be able to use while they're here.
Mr. McFarland, same question. How would you communicate with these individuals once they came into the community?
Well, I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. I can't understand enough to get by and point people into the right direction. And I can use, there's a plethora of technology out there now, Google Translate, to fill any of those gaps. And I believe we have a lot of great resources in place here in Lorraine. As Councilman Flores mentioned, El Centro, as well as within the school district, ELL teachers, bilingual academy, things like that, making sure they get those resources as soon as possible and they feel welcome and a part of this community.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Now you guys will both have 1 minute of closing remarks. We will start with you, Mr. McFarland.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm excited for this opportunity to serve the community. I really am looking forward to a chance to be a part of this community and serve the community without, any ulterior motives. I'm not a career politician. I just want to improve the lives of the people in this community. And I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. 1 minute, Mr. Flores.
As the city of Lorain continues to progress, we need to make it viable for businesses and business attraction, business retention, and development. I'd like to continue with those improvements in areas like Central Lorain, in the housing, the roadway and infrastructure upgrades. You have the downtown businesses, redevelopment in the downtown. And now with, there's another end of the downtown, and that's, 21st Street and Broadway. The St. Joseph's building is, we're going to be looking to see, there's a developer that's interested in buying that building, so they're going to be coming back to town, and I hope we can seal that deal and see some development at the other end of Broadway. And so I respectfully and humbly ask for your support to continue the new way for Lorain. On Tuesday, May the 7th, vote for Dennis Flores. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. That concludes this portion of the race. I'm sorry. We will take one break to transition into the next race. Thank you.
Every year, the Salvation Army serves nearly 30 million people in need. That's one person every second. So by the time you've finished watching this, 30 more lives will have been changed for good. All thanks to your donations.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the second race for the 6th Ward. I'd like to welcome Mr. Carrion and Mr. Espitia. And we will start with 1 minute of opening remarks. Mr. Carrion.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ray Carrion, and I am seeking the position of 6th Ward of Lorraine City Council. I would like to take this moment to once again thank Chip for this opportunity to really bring a very valuable platform to the community. I have been a South Lorraine resident for 41 years. I attended Whittier Junior High School, Lorraine Southview, and I also graduated from Bowling Green State University. I have been married for over 25 years to my wife, Orchidia. We have 2 grown children, Ray, who is a police officer in Cleveland, and my daughter, Alexis, who is a registered nurse here in Elyria. I have a lot of experience. I have worked in this community for over 25 years and see a need for jobs, improved security, and also for economic development that really supports all redevelopment efforts. But most importantly, a strong emphasis on schools. Schools and education is the key to any type of strong community and strong district. So I thank you.
Same thing, 1 minute opening remarks, Mr. Espitia.
My name is Javier Espitia. I am a first-generation American born to Mexican immigrant parents. My parents came here to work hard, play by the rules, make an honest living, and make the American dream a possibility for us. I feel that I was able to pursue an education thanks to their hard work, struggle, and sacrifice, and now I'm living my own version of the American dream. I see it as an obligation and a civic duty through my work in public service, through my work at El Centro and campaigns, to make sure that the opportunities I had and better ones are available for future generations of Americans. I've worked at El Centro as a caseworker and interpreter for a year. I worked as a congressional intern in college. I've worked on 4 election campaigns. I've worked for a member of Congress, a Secretary of State, the first Black president, and now I want to work for the people of South Lorraine.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Espitia, question number 3. If elected, what would be your ward priorities during the next 2 years?
I think South Lorraine is faced with 2 huge challenges right now. The sooner we can do HB 70, undo it, and return school control to local elected leaders who are accountable to local residents, the better. I think we need to address the issue of abandoned and neglected properties. I think they invite crime into our community. Just a week ago, there was a home on 26th Street where 2 men overdosed and died, and when police came in, they found hundreds of syringes. If we do that, we can expect home values to increase, crime rates to decrease, and more funding for our school system.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carrion, same question?
Yes, I would say certainly education. The repeal of House Bill 70 is paramount. It must happen immediately. Local control must be restored. I would say, in my experience, serving 20 plus years in public service, serving as the Director of Community Development and the Department of Building, Housing, and Planning, the #1 issue that developers, businesses, and folks that come into the area are looking for when they vet and when they do their site selection process is education. Weak school systems fail. It's no coincidence that the west side of Lorraine has blossomed over the years. A lot of that has to do with a strong school district in that area. So education is key, but also safety, providing safe neighborhoods for people to be able to enjoy safe and healthy communities.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you your second question, and I will begin with Mr. Carrion. Mr. Carrion, if elected, how would you ensure that your votes during city council meetings actually represent the needs of the people in your ward?
Well, thank you. Inclusion, transparency, communication, that is the key. That is the key to success. I believe in all of that. and I believe in the voice of the people. We are placed in this position to really represent the larger masses and the overall well-being of your community. I plan to do that by frequent engagement, communications, open forums, town hall meetings, to be able to sit and to be able to listen, because that is the key. We have to listen to what the people are saying and to be able to then enact and affect change. And there will be changes and there will be ideas that might differ from mine, and that is perfectly fine. I am here to represent the voice, the masses of our community, but that is done through inclusion, transparency, communication, and most importantly, respect and dignity.
Mr. Spitia, same question, please.
I would ensure that my constituents' needs are represented by asking them what they are. I would go directly to their house, knock on their door, have a conversation like I've done thousands of times before through my work in political campaigns. I've done the vast majority of the doors in South Lorraine. I've registered hundreds of voters in South Lorraine, at El Centro food pantries, at We Care, We Share food pantries, knocking on doors, just being persistent. It's not enough to ask people to come to meetings. Sometimes you have to take that direct initiative to communicate with somebody and ask them, what can we be doing better for you? And I would make it a priority to have at least one open free meet and greet a month, so residents of South Lorraine could come directly to me as well to let me know what their concerns are and how I can best advocate on their behalf, either in City Hall or before any city government agency.
Thank you.
Okay, and for your last and final question, we're starting with you, Mr. Espitia. What advice would you give high school seniors contemplating leaving Lorain after high school because they believe there are very limited career opportunities within the city?
The first piece of advice I would give them is to make sure they're registered to vote and that they do so in every election for which they're eligible to do so. I would encourage them to seek continuing their education at Lorain County Community College. It is one of the best, most affordable junior colleges in our entire country and an amazing resource for our city and county. I'm optimistic that we are on the verge of turning the corner on economic opportunity in our city. I think the diversity that is present in Lorain is unparalleled and our greatest strength and asset. And I think if young people were willing to stay where they were raised, take pride in where they're from and what they can do in the future, they could get in on the ground floor in shaping the future Lorain Renaissance.
Thank you. Mr. Carrion, same question. What advice would you give high school seniors contemplating leaving Lorain after high school because they believe there are very limited career opportunities within the city?
Yeah, that is a very familiar question because that is one that is asked quite a bit, and I provide that advice to many young members of our community. You have to empower yourself. You have to strive to be the best that you can be. You have to educate yourself. You have to be engaged. You have to be involved. You have to be involved at the local level, and you got to be involved at many other levels to bring significant change. You have to vote. You have to take action. You know, one of the things that we've talked about is that many communities employ folks that commute. We have many commuters. So even if the jobs are not here presently, we have an affordable community that folks can live. They can go ahead and set their roots. We can offer dynamic home ownership programs for new-time home buyers so we can incentivize those younger folks to set their roots here in Lorain, to grow here, and to be an agent of change, because they will be the next generation of leaders in our community.
Thank you. And now for your closing remarks, Mr. Carrion, we will start with you. You will have 1 minute.
Well, I would say that South Lorain needs a major boost. Now more than ever, we need to support our local school district. It is paramount that we support the district and bring that level of control back at the local level. We need to partner. One of the challenges that I see is that we are fractured. We are not cohesive in terms of how we develop our plans. Our goal is, and my intent is, to galvanize the community, develop a strategic plan that focuses on people-based economic development, engages the community to be involved with tangible goals that we can realize. Because we know that a plan and a vision without community engagement and without community support is simply a plan. And we know that culture, will eat strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we need to engage the community to make sure that people have an ownership stake and that they have a vested interest in the overall development and betterment of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Espitia. Your 1 minute in closing remarks.
I believe what's needed are new ideas, a fresh perspective, and innovative ways of attacking old problems. Like I said, I worked as an interpreter and as a caseworker at El Centro. I'm a native Spanish speaker. I've knocked on thousands of doors in South Lorraine. I've registered hundreds of voters in South Lorraine. That open line of communication can only result in good things as it regards to the needs of the people of South Lorraine. I've worked for, like I said before, I've interned for a congressperson. I've worked for a Secretary of State. I worked for the first black president, and I want to work for the people of South Lorraine. Please check out espitiaforlorraine.com for more detail.
Thank you both, and we wish all the candidates luck in their races. Thank you, Rose. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with the 7th Ward race for the city of Lorain. Thank you.
Hey, we missed you at the game last week. Is everything all right?
I just haven't been feeling like me lately.
You know I'm here for you, right?
That's a cut. Beautiful. Acting is one thing. Talking about suicide in real life is another.
In the military, you take challenges head on.
And now it's your turn to do the same for our veterans.
Be there.
Learn how you can start the conversation at BeThereForVeterans.com.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now going to go into our 7th Ward race. Unfortunately, Mr. Corey Shawver contacted us and had a prior engagement. He could not be here tonight. So therefore, we are still going to be asking the questions that we would have asked. Only Mr. Gleason, you will be answering all of those questions and giving us your input. And most likely, you will receive an additional question as there's a little more time in your race because there's only one person running. So we'd like to begin with your opening remarks, sir.
Good evening, my name is Joel Gleason and I'm running for 7th Ward City Council. I'd like to start by thanking Chip for hosting us tonight. I feel that this event is truly an invaluable service for our community. I purchased my home on Lakeview Drive 12 years ago when I first started working for Clearview Local Schools, and I've been there since. Since then, I've met my wife, Abby, and we have been married for 5 years. During that time, we have been blessed to have 2 young daughters who are quite beautiful. I have to thank Abby and my daughters for their support and allowing me to miss a lot of family time to be at events like this and spend time meeting more of our neighbors in the 7th Ward. I'm running for this position because my neighbors and I believe that working together we can improve quality of life issues in the 7th Ward. These issues include but not limited to affordable and up-to-date infrastructure for our water and sewer, quality parks and recreation programs for our families and retirees, and an investment in housing to attract new residents.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to say, I'm not old enough to vote, so my question is, why should my parents vote for you?
Your parents should vote for me because I'm an honest person. I'm willing and driven to work for our community. As a homeowner for the past 12 years and a new father, I have that perspective to bring in new families, to look at what we can do to help improve our community. And again, I bring that younger, we just talked from a couple, our 6th Ward people mentioned, how can we bring in younger people? I am one of those younger people who made an investment in my home. My roots are deep. I now have children. And we're looking to how can we make this better for our kids moving forward? How can we attract new families and new faces to this community? And in speaking of new faces, I'm a new face for our political front.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Your next question is, Lorraine has been listed on some websites as a sanctuary city. For those at home and in the audience who may not know, a sanctuary city is one where undocumented immigrants are not prosecuted for the sole reason of being here illegally. What is your position on sanctuary cities?
I'm glad to be a sanctuary city. We have a lot of, with working with students every day, I know that education is going to be a part of their future. I know that they're looking for a safe environment. And if we can provide that, then I think all the better for the city of Lorain. I believe that most people who are coming to this country from other countries are just looking for a safe place to live and an opportunity to provide better for their families, themselves, and their community.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Next question, and I want to make sure that I clarified a little bit because I think it might have been a little bit misinterpreted by when I asked it previously. The question was, due to the current crisis in Puerto Rico, more and more families are moving to Lorain and Cleveland. Several of these families have limited English-speaking skills. If they moved into your ward, how will you communicate with them? By that, I don't mean because you may not speak Spanish. How would you reach out and send the things that they need to know, the communication that they need to know so they know how our city is functioning and where they can get assistance?
Well, my first answer on that was going to be that I'm going to have to reach out to my neighbors because I'm not fluent Spanish speaker. I took 6 years through junior high and high school, and I was luckily that I was a nice kid, so I got the pass on the pass-fail there. Working with in our community, my neighbors are from Hispanic background, connecting with them, connecting new members from Puerto Rico to other neighbors, working with El Centro would be huge, even though it's not located in the 7th Ward. I know that's a truly valuable service that the 6th Ward in South Lorain appreciates, so getting them in connection with those, connecting them with other services, and just trying to, again, be a welcoming face and be willing to work with other neighbors who have those connections in line.
Thank you.
If elected, what will your ward priorities be during the next 2 years?
Over the next 2 years, I would like to try and focus on 3 to 4 things here. Housing, I think we need to come up with creative incentives to get new people to move into our homes. We have a lot of very beautiful homes in the 7th Ward and truly across the city. We need to do everything we can to try and get people to come in and breathe some fresh air into these homes and make them, bring them back to the beauty that they've been. Again, being a father of 2 young children, I live right across from Lakeview Park. I would love to have a birthday party there. Unfortunately, there's spray paint and graffiti all over it, and I don't necessarily want to bring my extended family to Lorain and highlight that aspect. I want to be able to come and play on a playground that's free from those things, enjoy a grill out underneath a pavilion that doesn't have curse words spray painted all over it. So those are things that I'd be looking to improve. Obviously, we need to continue on the improvements for the road. And finally, we need to revisit the cost in financing for our water and sewer improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. And now you will have 1 minute of your closing remarks.
Thank you. I'm hoping to earn the vote of my neighbors in the 7th Ward because I feel that I'm an honest person and driven to help others, whether it's through my profession, as a teacher, as a neighbor, or as a husband and father. I'm not naive enough to think that I have all the answers to our issues here in Lorain, and I know that I cannot fix these issues without working in collaboration with our community and its leaders. I look forward to working with both to craft new ideas and solutions to our concerns in the 7th Ward. Working together, we can bring a new and innovative ideas before councils, ideals that will truly serve the neighbors in our community. Again, working together, we will be stronger than any of us working alone. Finally, I would once again like to thank Chip for this opportunity to connect with our community, especially those in the 7th Ward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gleason. We'll be back for our next race.
We make Marines who overpower the desire to quit with the perseverance to prevail. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the CHIP Candidates Forum. We're now going to be covering the Clerk of Courts race for the city of Lorain. And we'd like to welcome Mr. Ted Kalo and Mr. Jeffrey Bear today. Gentlemen, thank you for coming and thank you for your service. So we're going to open with opening remarks, and we will begin with Mr. Bear.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Bear, Marine Corps veteran and former deputy for Lorain Muni Courts. Some of my experience includes working in the office until January of this year. I was a purchasing and accounts payable manager along with an HR coordinator for an industrial cleaning company, maintenance management chief for the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, and more importantly, I was a blue-collar steel worker with Local 1104 and auto worker with UAW 2000. That's important because it shows that I am not afraid of hard work. With this experience, I have the know-how and work ethic that is going to make the clerk's office more efficient in handling workloads and collecting debt. I have the knowledge and experience to ensure that the office doesn't get their hands tied or bottlenecked when dealing with IT issues and court software. I did it in the 90s with the technology boom for my unit in the Marines, and I can do it with the city of Lorain. My management skills are second to none. I lead by example, and I will be in that office working every day to make it better. I humbly ask you all to please vote this primary for Jeff Bear for Clerk of Courts. Thank you.
Mr. Cato, your opening remarks, sir.
Thank you once again. It's good to be here, and Jeff, thank you for your service. It's good to be back in town. I served 14 years as your elected Lorain County Commissioner, bringing a lot of changes and improvements to the office of Commissioner and many county offices. I've been a lifelong resident of our community, as most of you are familiar with me. I've served on multiple boards, multiple committees, not-for-profits, and been engaged in our community as a small businessman for almost 23 years. I've been in the office for about 3 months now, and we're making tremendous strides getting the office in compliance with many issues that weren't taken care of over the years. We are changing our collections process. I've added new ways of pay. They'll be coming out. There'll be Android Pay, Google Pay. A brand new process will be the first clerk's office in the state of Ohio for a pay near me. Anyone, anywhere who gets a ticket and has not paid it, once they get their warrant blocked and realize they can't get a driver's license, have to pay money to the Clerk of Courts to get that lifted. They'll be able to pay at any CVS, 7-Eleven, Family Dollar, for some of the national places and others. They can just go in and pay their fine and then have their removed. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is directed to Mr. Kalo. Please explain in a nutshell what you believe to be the duties of Lorain clerk and courts.
Are we going to get to do all 10, I hope? I'd love to go right down the list. The main duty of the clerk of courts is, of course, filing all the paperwork in the courts, making sure the warrants get out, expungements are done, all the civil cases are done. We're also, our #1 job, and I've heard it multiple times over the years from the past clerk, Steve Bancic, who was the clerk prior to the former one, is you have to get the collections in. Entering this position when I was appointed by the Democrat Central Committee, I was told there was over $12.5 million in outstanding fines and costs. Those dollars, when they're collected properly, they come in, and a large amount of those go towards paying for city services. I have changed our collections company. We're going with a new model that our city treasurer, Terry Soto, has used for 5 years, and she can't say enough good things about him. I looked at the Attorney General's office, our current subscriber, and I went with Terry Soto, what she told me. We are working for our victims' rights in our community. It's been long overlooked. Just yesterday, we posted the unclaimed funds going back to 2014, because I only back 5 years, for victims to get their restitution, and we're notifying it and posting it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I worked in the office. The clerk of courts is responsible for cataloging, filing, docketing, the day-to-day process. We need to safely keep all the journals, records, books, papers, belongings appertaining to the court, records and proceedings. We have to perform all the duties which the judges of the courts prescribe and keep books showing of all the receipts and disbursements, which shall be open for public inspection at all times.
Okay, Mr. Bear, for your second question, as clerk of courts, you will most likely have to handle stressed out, angry, or frustrated individuals on a regular basis. Please share with our viewers any experience you have had in this type of environment or customer service role.
I worked in the LPD and the clerk's office, which both deal on a day-to-day basis with frustrated individuals. It's all about communication and listening. You can't please everyone. Sometimes you have to be compassionate and professional and just be there to listen to them. You have elderly, young, mentally ill individuals, and sometimes they just want an ear to talk to. One point in the police department, I had an individual that came in saying that he had his gems stolen from the Firefish Festival. All he needed to do was talk to somebody. I asked him, well, let me get your name and I'll pull up the report. He got very angry, disgruntled. After talking to him and calming him down, like I said, I think it was just a matter of the individual wanted to talk to somebody and blow off a little steam. So compassion, communication. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kalo, same question. As clerk of courts, you will most likely have to handle stressed out, angry, or frustrated individuals on a regular basis. Please share with our viewers any experience you have had in this type of environment or customer service role.
Well, speaking with all my fellow small businessmen out there, I think my 40 years in retail experience has given me a lot of experience in dealing with customers of many issues. Also 14 years in government service as your county commissioner. I've learned that everyone needs to be treated fairly. We have victims in our office, we have defendants in our office, and we have some that are probably both, depending on which day of the week it is, with the people who frequent our office. But you have to spend the time, you have to explain the issues, because most people don't understand the legal system. And I've spent, with my 14 years as a county commissioner, I served on a public safety committee on the state board, working with our sheriff's department, our local police, and our local judges, just on issues coming from the courts, whether it's their local rules they have to establish, how things are handled, and now being the clerk of court actually can have some effect on those issues, and we're implementing those as we go. This is a customer-driven business, and whether they're purchasing a piece of floor covering from me or they are there for an issue on a case, we treat them fairly and equally regardless.
Thank you. Well, as both of you have had recent experience within the office of the Lorain Clerk of Courts, we'd like to ask you, do you consider that office diverse enough? Why or why not? And if not, what changes would you consider in making that office more diverse? We will begin with Mr. Kalo.
Well, thank you. No, not at all. Again, coming from a county-wide basis, your employees should reflect your diversity in your community. And actually, with an open position I had in the office since I've been there, my first hire was an African-American. Wonderful lady, 15 years with the Federal Reserve. They eliminated her department. She worked at Local First Federal Savings. She came highly recommended. And she is a reflection of our community. I brought back a former employee who's working part-time, helping me get caught up on old reports that weren't done. She's also of African-American ethnicity. So no, we don't. I do have 4 Hispanics in the office. We're very well covered. We have a bilingual person there who can work with people who, are language challenged with English language. So no, it is not diverse enough with 14 employees in there and with me having a couple part-timers, almost 16. And there's 25% of the population of Hispanic and about 23% of African American. We need to make sure our office reflects what our community looks like.
Thank you, Mr. Kalo. Mr. Barrett, do you consider that office diverse enough? I know you've spent some time there. Why or why not? And if not, what changes would you be looking to make?
Of course, diversity is important in all public offices. I think all public offices should reflect their community that they serve. When hiring, it will be a focus of mine to oversee the hiring opportunities that are available to all the community. Like Mr. Kalo said, when I was working in the office, we did have a few Hispanics that could speak. It was very important to communicate with the Hispanic community in that office. Without those two individuals, we would have had our hands tied quite often. So definitely very important, and I look to improve on getting the office more diverse when I get the election. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bearer, since we have a little bit more extra time, we're going to ask a bonus question. If Lorraine's court administrator is correct and the court has uncollected court costs and fines totaling more than $12 million, how would you ensure an increased collection rate if elected to this position?
I would use the opportunity to open it up to multiple vendors to compete and to earn the contract by ability, not by just choosing one or by going one with which the city is already utilizing. I feel that we made a grave mistake on choosing a previous vendor to do the collections. It wasn't on my radar when I was in the office. I wasn't aware of it being any problem. But again, you come in the office, you look to improve on all things, so I don't blame Mr. Kalo in that aspect, but I do believe we missed an opportunity to open it up to multiple vendors to achieve the best possible goal, and that's collecting the debt for the city of Lorain.
Same question, Mr. Kalo?
Thank you very much. Yeah, the court administrator has stated there's approximately $12.5 million sitting out there. I actually opened up because there was no paperwork in the office to even know who my vendors were in my collection agency. When I talked to my chief, who's been there almost 42 years, second longest serving employee in the city next to Chief Rivera, she explained to me we had Capital Recovery Services, and there was a prior one named Dana Preaser or something that they got rid of when they brought Capital in, apparently. When I had all the paperwork submitted to me from the Capital Resource Company, they gave me just a short summary of what 2018 did. As going through setting up, getting all the annual reports done, I could see numbers that they were paid. So it was about an average number, about $85,000 a year they received. So looking at that, and then talking to Terry Soder, and I've worked very closely with the Elyria Municipal Clerk of Court, Eric Rothgary, who's a friend, and Tom Orlando, our County Clerk of Court, who I worked intimately with as a County Commissioner. The County Clerk of Court likes to use the Attorney General's office for certain reasons because it's at a county level and felony type issues. Terry Soder, our city treasurer, well-respected, who's done a great job. I can finish it. Said that RAS was a superior collection agency versus the one they had in the past, Capital being one of those. So I took it based on her experience. She's a former county employee at the county auditor's office. She is now she worked in the city treasurer's office, and she is our elected city treasurer. She said they were the best option for her office, and I should consider them, and I have accepted that. With Capital still keeping all their active accounts. I didn't strip all their accounts despite what was said. Anything that's active they can have, anything that isn't and going forward will go to the new company for collections. It's a one-year contract. Let's see who performs the best.
Okay, you will have 1 minute for your closing remarks, starting off with Mr. Kalo.
Thank you once again. It's always a pleasure being here, talk to all my fellow Lorainites. I've spent my time there, the 3 months I've been there, working to straighten out issues in the office. There were a lot of compliance with state and federal law that just weren't happening. I come from a process background. Being a county commissioner, I'm familiar with all the processes that have to be done to run county government, whether it's having a certified public records person when something is requested and how it's supposed to be handled, to getting the annual reports that haven't been filed since 2010, a requirement of the Ohio Revised Code. I've now got 5 of those years done, submitted, and on our website. We're in the process of installing a new case management system software from the failed one that is not the former clerk's fault. They went bankrupt, it failed. We're installing a new one. I'm familiar with managing those systems. I now have it under my control. The former clerk gave it up to the courts and the city IT. We installed a brand new 911 software system that has benefited every police department in this community that I oversaw. I'm working on reconciling all the books. 6 years, inauditable by the state auditor. We're working on fixing all those issues, get the books proper prior to going into a new system. Along with that, I am dealing with, thank you very much. I'd appreciate your support in this primary election.
Mr. Bear, you will have 1 minute.
Thank you, Chip, for hosting. I want to reiterate, I have the skills and experience to run this office. I have the leadership skills instilled in me through the Marine Corps along with my 20-plus year career in the civilian world. There's always room for change, and I excel at training and mentoring people to adapt. I've received multiple commendations as well as a Navy Marine Corps Achievement Medal for my remarkable dedication to duty, initiative, and technical proficiency while serving. I'll apply those same skills and dedication to the Clerk of Courts by establishing greater productivity and efficiency benchmarks to make the office as accurate as possible. It is these skills and experience that matter, not political affiliation, religion, committees, and organizations that I belong to. My managerial ability, personal initiative, honesty, integrity, and unbiased decision-making will allow me to manage that office ethically and represent the court and the city of Lorain with the highest standards. When you vote in the following weeks, I'm asking that you vote for me, the right experience, the right choice. My name's Jeff Bear. Thank you for your vote and support.
We want to thank you both for your time. Just so you will know, and I'm sure that once these interviews have been seen by the community, with $12 million outstanding in terms of court fines, that pays for a lot of police, that pays for fire engines, that pays for a lot of that we need. So I believe this community will be looking very closely at how that money is collected, and we thank you both for your commitment to making sure it is collected. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to go into a race that has actually 9 candidates that show that the democratic process and citizens wanting to participate in government still exists and is alive and well in Lorain. So we'll be right back with the race for Lorain City Council at large.
The Warriors to Work program makes it possible for wounded warriors and their families to build new lives together.
When my dad left, I was like this big, but now I'm like this big. My dad got a master's degree in human resources.
Thanks to Warriors to Work that my dad has a terrific job.
The Wounded Warrior Project helps him by, giving him another start.
Now that my dad's home, I get a lot more hugs.
I'm really proud of him.
Find out more about Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home, the brave.
Ohio State is saving lives every day.
This is Ohio State.
We're the economic engine of the state, a major employer.
Over 60,000 students. We're on the forefront of cancer research. An educational core of Ohio.
Impacting tens of thousands daily. Our alumni organization is nearly 500,000 worldwide.
This is Ohio State.
This is Ohio State. Ohio State.
This is the Ohio State University.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have come to our final race of the evening. It is the race for council at large for Lorain City Council. Today here we have, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands because you're all sitting where you want to sit, which we would not want to put you in assigned seats. So if you could just raise your hand for the audience. We have with us today Antonio Barrios, Mr. Tony DeMacchia, Mr. Mitchell Phallus, Mr. Joshua M. Garcia, Miss Rita Garcia, Miss Inez James, Mr. Joseph Kazura. Max Schaefer, unfortunately, cannot be with us tonight. He is getting married in 2 days, and I believe the wife-to-be's family is all in town, and he has to attend to that. And last but definitely not least, we have Miss Mary Springowski. We want to welcome all of you to today's Candidates Forum, and we have a series of questions for you today. And so each of you understand that you do have, you'll receive a question, you have a 1-minute response time. You will see a sign up front if you are, that will tell you when it's about 30 seconds, then 10 seconds, and then stop. Stop does not mean abruptly stop. Stop means transition out. So just so that you are aware, and now we will begin with our questions, and we're going to ask Iris to ask the first question. Oh, never mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Iris will not be asking you the first question because each of you have opening statements to make. And we're going to go from right to left. So we're going to begin this way with Mr. Kazura.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm delighted to be here tonight. I didn't get in a fight today. I got a shot in my eye today, which I can still see, you know. But I'm delighted to be here tonight, and thanking Chip. I'm thanking the Lorain High, and also thanking the citizens for showing up tonight. It's an important thing, your civic duty. And I want to also congratulate the people here that are running for office as candidates. It's a very difficult thing to run for public office, to put yourself out and ask for vote and support. And I am delighted to once again run for office. I consider public service to be an honorable thing to do. And I encourage everybody to someday also do that or get involved in races. And that's why I'm running again and hope to serve an additional time in this great city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Damachia.
Good evening. I first want to thank Chip for this great forum and also thank all of you for being here this evening. And I do as well want to wish all the candidates the best of luck on that's going to be on the ballot May 7th. Again, my name is Tony Damachia. I've been a lifelong citizen of the city of Lorain. I've also been a member of the Lorain Board of Education for the past 11 plus years. I'm an adjunct faculty at Lorain County Community College and the director of operations of Boys and Girls Clubs of Lorain County. I'm a proud father of 3 beautiful children. My oldest daughter, Helena, is 17, Gabriella is 11, and Anthony is 7. And I'm married to a wonderful woman in Morgan for the past almost 4 years now. I've been a dedicated and active member of our community and an enormous supporter of unions as an elected official in the city of Lorain. I believe my education background and community involvement and experience make me the best candidate for Lorain City Council at large. Again, thank you all for being here, and I wish everybody the best of luck.
Thank you. Mr. Phallus.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the CHIP organization for the opportunity to speak with you about my candidacy for Lorain City Council at large. My name is Mitchell Phallus. My wife Vivian and I reside on West 30th Street in Lorain. I'm seeking to run for Lorain City Council at large for my 5th term. I'm a lifelong Lorain resident, and I'm a proud product of Lorain City Schools. I bring to city government a strong combination of prior city council experience, financial management know-how, economic development leadership, and a lifetime commitment to Lorain. Lorain is a city with major ethnic diversity. As your council at large official, I'm responsible for all citizens of Lorain, whether you reside on the south side, the east side, the west side, or central Lorain. My main focus as a council at large official are the following 4 items. One, we need to continue to attract businesses and jobs. 2, we need to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe and clean. 3, we need to make park improvements. And 4, we need to continue to make roadway improvements. I respectfully ask for your vote on May 7th. Mitchell J. Phallus for Lorain City Council at large. Thank you.
Mr. Barrios.
Buenas noches. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. I want to thank Chip. Le quiero dar las gracias a Chip por organizar esta noche. I grew up in Lorain from the late 50s and early 60s. I actually worked in the U.S. Steel Mill back in the heyday. There were 13,000 people working then. But I think one of the most exciting things about my life is that I moved to Europe, and I spent 15 years in Europe living in different countries. So my ability to adapt and live in different countries and speak different languages gives me a unique, more, what you say, global aspect as to the way I'm thinking nowadays. So I think maybe a fresh change with a global kind of attitude in building Lorain into a tourist destination would be something that we need to move forward on. And I am definitely about tourism. Tourism is a huge industry. In America, we make about $134 trillion in tourism, and right down the street we have Cedar Point, which is a wonderful place. Well, Lorain could also be in that same boat and take care of and get into the tourism industry. I want to push for a lot more focus on this, and I hope I can have your vote on May 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Springowski.
Buenas noches y gracias por tenerme aquí esta noche. My name is Mary Springowski, and I am currently one of your council at large. I'm married to Thomas, and I have 4 children, and I have 1 grandson. I am the daughter of immigrants. My personal story is the Lorraine story. I'm a 20-year employee of Ford Motor Company. I am the chairperson of the Lorraine Medina Correctional Base Correction Facility. I have served as an UAW Employee Resource Coordinator. I have a paralegal certificate from LC3. I am the chairperson of the Building and Lands Committee. I'm a member of the Police, Fire, and Legislation and the Finance and Claims Committee, and I am also the President Pro Tempore of City Council. Once again, I'm asking you for your support so that I can continue to be your voice on Lorraine City Council. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Ms. Garcia.
Hello, my name is Rita Garcia, and I'm running for council at large for the city of Lorain. I owe Lorraine. Lorraine has been very good to me. I was fortunate enough to participate in the community development loan back in 2008, I believe, through Doug Ringo, and I opened up my own childcare business, Regis Christian Academy on Oberlin Avenue. I have been thriving for 19 years. I believe Lorraine needs a business sense to bring more money's revenue into Lorraine, and I will work very long, very hard with our mayor to make things work. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Garcia, no relation to Ms. Garcia, by the way.
Yes. I'd like to thank everybody who showed up tonight, and thank you, Chip, for having me. Today is a day long in the making, and one that started many years before I was born here in Lorain. My great-grandmother moved here from Mexico in the early 1920s. She would be proud that her sacrifice and risk to move to America turned into her grandson running for council at large. This city has provided our family with great transparency, wealth, and the ability to adapt to new adventures throughout the community. Tonight is an honor. Is to honor my grandmother's sacrifices and share the visions I have for the great city of Lorain. Knocking on the doors this past several weeks, the biggest concerns I hear is water bills, leaf pickup, and our roads. And as your future councilman and a fresh new face, which I keep hearing throughout this great city, I promise to serve you and the people, hold Facebook polls, have town halls, and have you, the people, have an output and the ability to speak and be able to speak at council meetings, which I think is highly important. Thank you, and I hope to have your vote May 7th.
And last but not least, your 1 minute, Ms. James.
Thank you, Ola, and welcome everybody, and all the panel here, good luck. My name is Inez James, and when I decided to run for council at large, I had my faith and a belief that I could be the change that I wanted to see in my community. I bring an extensive amount of education. I have a bachelor's degree in physical education, a master's in special education, and I have over 30 hours and a master's towards clinical mental health counseling. I've been employed with the Ohio Turnpike for over 22 years. I am a supervisor there, and I work hard to bring together people with skills of training and technology. I have also worked for the Lorraine City Schools. I've substitute taught for over 20 years. So I humbly ask for your vote on May the 7th for council person at large. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our question is going to be number 3, and we're starting off with Mr. Barrios, I'm sorry. As a council at large, you would represent the wishes of all of the citizens of Lorain. How would you ensure that your vote measures brought before the city council would reflect the wishes of your constitutes?
Thank you for that question. It's a good one. Actually, I think communication is the most important aspect of any elected official. I think if you're able to communicate with the people and give them your ideas and have them understand it, it's just not talking at people, it's talking with people. So I believe very much in the public forum type of situation where you invite the public in and explain whatever ideas or issues that you have and to get their feedback actually and then see how they feel about that issue. Having information like this is very important because then you might come out with that idea that you think is wonderful, but then the input from the people and the residents should also impact what your idea is. So for me, the communication with the public and a town hall or a meet and greet kind of thing where they get to see you and talk to you before everything is said and done and put it in stone, give the community the possibility to have their voice input in what you're planning to do because it's their life that you're affecting. So I don't think you should do that planning all on your own. I truly believe that you need to communicate with the public. Thank you.
Same question. Up next is Mr. Garcia.
This is a great question and one that I'm very passionate about. Just recently, in the past 3 weeks, I've been doing Facebook polls and asking citizens what they think about certain issues. That's highly important. Having our citizens be able to speak at city council meetings is objective number one. And it is very important for you to be able to come down to City Hall and be able to express your concerns to our citizens. Last year, several council members voted no for you to be able to speak at our council meetings. And as an elected official, I feel like it's very important that you have the opportunity to speak, have Facebook polls, work with you to create petitions in your wards to see what your people think, and to hold town halls to have an effective transparency on what you think should be done in the city of Lorain.
Okay. Next up is Mr. Phallus.
Thank you. How would I represent the wishes of the city of Lorain? I think from my perspective, I need to take a look at legislation that's before council and really think about what the impact of that might be on our citizens. And if I think it's adverse, I would go out and speak, and I would go door to door and speak to those residents to see what their concerns were or what their preferences were for an issue that we were voting on. In particular, on the west side of Lorain, Mercy Hospital was proposing to build a medical center in the middle of a neighborhood. And from my perspective, I thought that that was a very, very bad idea. If I owned a home there, I would not want to look at a medical facility out of my picture window. So I went and I walked the neighborhood and found out that 90% of the residents in that part of town did not want to have Mercy Hospital build a medical facility on Oak Point Road. So it's just a matter of working hard, talking to the people, finding what they want, and then once I know that, I can vote accordingly on city council. Thank you.
Up next is Ms. Garcia. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. What if we had a monthly town meeting? What if we had it in each ward? That way everyone could be represented. The people of that ward could attend the meeting, voice their concerns, what they need, what they don't need, suggestions, ideas. I think that would be a great idea for the city of Lorraine. And, at the meetings at City Hall that we have on Mondays, we can correlate those questions and answers and come up with ideas to solve problems for the city of Lorraine. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Mr. Kazura. How would you ensure that your vote measures brought before the city council would reflect on your wishes of the people that have put you in office?
Well, ironically, believe it or not, local government works the best as far as access to your elected officials and to your administrators. And we get the most heat, ironically. How do you do this? I get phone calls all the time from people who have concerns, whether it's in their neighborhood or whether it's something that the city is going to be voting on. We have important things. The most important thing we do, and the most important thing every councilman and every citizen should be aware of, is when we do the budget. The budget defines your entire year because it appropriates money, and it's how we decide where most of the dollars going to police, going to fire, going to streets, going to parks. And that's where it starts. And the rest of the year is just hoping that the budget comes in what we thought. But I always put my constituents what I think is best for them. When you're elected, we have representative government, and you are electing people to do the job for you the best of their ability. So that's all you can do. And you should hope that the council people will see your best interest at heart. Thank you.
Up next is Ms. Brunowski. Sorry if I butchered your name. It's okay, honey.
Yes, I've introduced legislation allowing to allow the public to speak at regular council meetings 3 times. I didn't have the votes to get it passed. Others had voted against it. I research the issues, and as a rule, people know that they can reach out to me, that I will be responsive. I think everybody in the city of Lorraine has my phone number, especially when it's bulk garbage week. And I am out and about in the communities. People see me, they come up to me at church, they come up to me at the grocery store. I'm always available to the people of the city of Lorraine. I do research the issues. I will reach out to them, they reach out to me, and I respond accordingly. I am always voting in the best interest of the city as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Mr. Demakia.
Thank you. This is my fourth campaign that I've done in my political career, I guess you can say, and I could say that the greatest part of campaigning is getting out there and knocking on doors and speaking to people and talking to the folks in this community and getting to know them and listening. I think it's incredibly important that we listen to our constituents in this community to understand what their concerns are and how we can possibly address their concerns based on the information that we have. I think being accessible and visible to community is just not enough during a campaign election. I think that you have to do it on a consistent basis. As a member of the Lorain Board of Education, we not only put one hearing of the public, but we put a second hearing of the public just so the folks in our community can address their concerns, not just before our agenda, but after the agenda, so that if there were things on that agenda that they were concerned about, we can hear them at that time too. So I think it's extremely important not only to be accessible and visible to the community, but you also have to listen to them and then bring their concerns to the city government floor so that we can address them and try to resolve them. Thank you.
And for our last opening statement, Ms. James.
Can you repeat the question? My openings.
Question 3.
You want my opening statement?
Question 3.
Okay.
Question is, how do you ensure that your vote on measures brought before City Council would reflect the wishes of your constituents?
Thank you. Education, education, education. We must educate the residents on what they need to know to be able to give a true understanding of what council is about and what they need to know to be able to, for them to be able to support what council is doing. I think transparency is truly important. I feel that being a person that is reachable, that's able to listen to my constituents and know what they want, is just so important to be open, personable, and being able to educate the resident on what's going on so they can better understand and be able to come to council meetings and be productive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We're going to move into our next question. And our next question revolves around cities that, as Mr. Arredondo pointed out earlier, lose their industry, lose their steel mill, lose their Ford plant, lose other businesses, and frequently have to make budget cuts and budget reductions and tighten their belts. So we want you all to give this question a thought and give us the answer that you think is appropriate here. So let us say that the city budget has called for serious cuts during a particular year. What departments or areas would you target for those budget reductions? And is there a department you would be looking to protect on behalf of your constituents, which are the voters of Lorraine? That is question 10 on your sheet, and we will begin with Ms. Garcia.
Yes, I believe across the board, cuts of every department would be necessary. That way no particular department is deprived. I also believe that you cannot cut with safety. That safety is very, very important in any city, especially the city of Lorraine. And that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bringowski, same question.
Well, I'm always looking to protect the safety services. I'm a member of that committee. And this is a no-brainer. We've already been through this. I believe that if you're honest with the voters and give them the facts, that they will support what you have to do. When I was first elected, we had a serious budget concern, and I called for 20% cuts. I cut my own salary and donated it back to the city by the same amount that I had called for this. And I look for it to be from top down, management down to the lowest employee, the lowest paid employee in the city. We have to do whatever it takes to keep the services that the residents of this city are entitled to. But again, I think that if you're straight up with the people and you tell them what the facts are and you're honest with them, I think that they will always step up and they will do the right thing and they will support what you're doing when it comes to the budget cuts. But safety can never, ever be compromised at any stage of the game.
Thank you. Ms. James?
Thank you. I again believe, like you said, it starts at home. You start with yourself first. I must lead by example. If we're going to make cuts, it must start with the council. 20%, 30% of whatever it takes, and then just like, and use that as an example for other people to follow. I think like honesty, you know, being transparent, real talk to the community and letting them know what is happening and why it is happening. The more honest we are with people, the more open they are to follow our lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, I reflect what Ms. Smrogrowski and Inez James said. From the top down, cutting our salaries, cutting some people's salaries that are up there in six figures to be able to deal with the stress of the situations. Police can never be cut. It's highly important to protect our citizens. And these are things where I just spoke about earlier, where we have Facebook polls, constantly posting on Facebook, educating our constituents of exactly what's going on, making sure we're holding town halls, not just one, but several, and then also having you the ability to speak at councils. Transparency is important, and I think a lot of the citizens feel like their voices aren't heard, and if we allow them to come in and speak and be patient and calm and have a good outlook on what we think's best, and then hear from them as well, then we can provide a better Lorraine in the future.
Thank you. Mr. DeBacchia?
Yeah, first, nobody likes to make budget cuts. You know, that's an extremely difficult decision to make, and unfortunately, it's a necessary evil at times to sustain the stability of the city. So I think that it is critical to look at your budget. You've got to prioritize your budget. Take a look at your line items and the labor and you know, each department and what we're dealing with. And I think it's important for city council to work with city government, to work with our treasurer, to figure out and prioritize what cuts would be necessary to, again, maintain the stability of the city. When you don't have a whole lot of revenue coming in, unfortunately, like I said, that's something that is a reality that has to happen. But again, if I had to look at priorities and what is most important, I would also have to concur with some of my fellow candidates up here and say safety is a major priority for our community because you know, our citizens need to be safe, and without a safe community, no new businesses are coming here and no new folks are moving into our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phallus.
I've made this comment on city council many, many times, and I will repeat it again. Safety is job one. Safety is job one. Safety is job one. If city council is faced with budget cuts, we really need to keep the level of police and fire services at the current level. All the departments would have to be looked at. I would think that we would start by figuring out how much money we need to cut and then equitably cut across all departments except for police and fire. I think that's, when you're in a difficult situation, you need to speak with your department heads, sharpen the pencil, see where you can really cut and not really have adverse impact on your services, see if there's ways even to become more efficient. Sometimes dire moments can be the catalyst for an improvement in processes. So just keep looking at it, keep working it, trying to figure out if there's any way the city can be more efficient. Thank you.
And Mr. Kazura?
Yes, thank you, Michael. You know, contrary to popular opinion, if you go through City Hall today and go by floor, it's almost like the skeleton crew. We don't have a lot of employees. We have made cuts over the years. And last budget crisis we had, I got to give kudos to the employees. Employees took cuts themselves. The union members took less work days. Many of us elected officials gave back 10% of our salaries for when that happened. There's no question, the biggest problem we have, federal mandates such as sewers and water and the things we've had to do with no federal money. The state has cut our local government fund. We've lost millions of dollars, and it all comes on local government. And there's no question you cannot lay off police at any circumstance. So we can do, Mike, last time it came out pretty good. It was a team effort, and I hope that would be if we ever had another problem like that.
Thank you. And Mr. Barrios, what departments or areas would you target for those budget reductions? And is there a department for you that you would be looking to protect on behalf of the citizens of Lorain?
Well, this is a very difficult question, and hearing what everybody's saying, obviously, I would also want to make this to be a part of everybody. So every department would have to take a look at their staff and see where they could possibly cut. I'm not talking about cutting workers, but maybe a little bit farther up, you know, in supervisory levels and things like that, because we need the people on the street. We need the people that actually do the work to be there on the job. So maybe that kind of look at each department on a case-by-case basis and make judgment calls on that. Also, look at the contracts where we could cut down on our contracts. Work with the unions, obviously, and they have done this before, and I have to commend City Council that has taken pay cuts, but I would also enforce that and just make everybody from the mayor on down take the pay cuts that, you know, what would be deemed necessary for everybody, because not just the departments have to take this. I think the whole city is going to be affected by this, so it should be spread out to everybody.
Thank you. And for your third and final question, we're going to start with Ms. James. It's going to be question number 6. In your opinion, will there ever come a time when the citizens of Lorain have been taxed enough? Are there other alternatives too negative to contemplate?
I think we've already been taxed enough. But speaking about alternatives, remember when the mayor, he looked outside of the box and went after Amazon to try to get them here as a business to start a business here to bring jobs to Lorain. We have to think outside of the box and be able to bring new innovative technology and different businesses to the city so we can have a break on taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Demakia, same question. It's number 6.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. People are sick and tired of being taxed, not just in Lorain, but every community around the county, around the state of Ohio. Unfortunately, you know, you look at the status of the city of Lorain, and again, going back to what we just talked about, when you don't have new revenue coming in, you don't have new businesses developing, it's very difficult to sustain the budget, the city budget, with no new revenue. So it is extremely critical if we have to be creative and find alternative solutions to taxing the taxpayers of the city of Lorain. In order to do that, we have to improve our infrastructure. We have to look at improving our safety. We have to look at improving our roads. I mean, all of those things are critical to promoting our city and bringing new business here. If we can continue to do those things and develop this community, then the new revenue comes in, and we can look at alternatives to taxing the citizens of the city of Lorain.
Thank you. Mr. Barrios? In your opinion, will there ever come a time when the citizens of Lorain have been taxed enough? And are other alternatives too negative to contemplate?
Well, I think that time has come and passed already. We're all pretty wore out with what the taxes are and what's going on with them. I mean, it's also a very difficult question in the sense that, you know, government, that's how it runs. you can't run a government, a city, or a country without the input of taxes to maintain your safety, to maintain the different services that's going on. So I am not in favor of taxes. I think people should be eased off of the taxes, and especially I think senior citizens, a word out for senior citizens, that at a certain age, for me, you should stop paying taxes. Because if you've worked all your life and you paid into Social Security and you paid your taxes, you should not be taxed beyond a certain age limit. Now, that could be, you know, discussed, but I mean, at that point, maybe giving people in that age bracket a chance to kind of live out their years is a great thing, so I'm very much for that. The time is coming past for taxes to be redeveloped.
Ms. Bringowski, same question.
I just paid my income tax the other day, so of course I don't like taxes. Nobody does. But, and you know, any tax is too much, but sadly they're necessary for the city to function as it is. And right now we need to get creative with looking at alternatives. When we talk about the alternatives that would be too negative to contemplate, those alternatives are the cuts to the safety forces, your fire and your police. And also the services that people have come to expect. They like their street lights. They like their running water. They like their sewers working. They like their snow plowed. These are things that we can't do this because they all add up to the safety of the citizens. So sometimes, unfortunately, we have to bite the bullet, but I think that this should just spur us on more for partnering with the port for the economic development. We need to look at things like industrial hemp, which could be a regional thing, and silicone chip manufacturing. Things that were out west in California are moving back to the opportunity zone. And so that's where I think we are. Yes, we are taxed too much at times.
Thank you very much. Mr. Phallus, same question.
I think the current tax rate that the city of Lorain has is sufficient. It's high, and I don't think we should add to that at all. I think the taxpayers have had enough when it comes to taxes. In regards to your second question, I'd like to rephrase the question. Are there alternatives that are positive that could impact our city? And I think there is. I think there's a key thing. We have a key asset in our city, key assets owned by the City of Lorain and the Lorain Port Authority. And that is vacant land along the lakefront and the riverfront, and then the Colorado River Bend Industrial Park. The city and the port need to spend some money to figure out what the highest and best use of that property is in order to get additional revenues to our city so our taxes will not increase and actually may at some point decrease. We need to be smart and we need to be strategic about how we're going to develop that property. And I think it's incumbent upon us to get the answer. What is the highest and best use for that? It's going to take money, but we need that answer before we make that decision on City Council. Thank you.
And Mr. Kozora?
Well, I don't think anybody wants any more taxes for sure, but I would like to flip-flop what I pay Uncle Sam and what I pay the state and pay that to the city, because you get the best bang for your buck from local taxes. The average person pays from $500,000 city income tax, gets police protection, gets fire protection, gets a lot of services for that amount of money. And we are working hard, and as Mr. Phallus said, the start of the city was Black River and Lake Erie, and that's where the future is. And we can develop that area and re-energize this community and get additional dollars, hopefully. And that's what we're working at. Nobody here would ever say that they're going to raise your taxes for sure. You'd have to be an idiot. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia.
It's going to take young millennials like me with bold visions, and Mary had said hemp and the medical marijuana industry is going to be the next big boom in Ohio. And I get people all the time that's within the political spectrum, don't say that, you'll hurt your votes. Well, we've come to a point where our citizens have been taxed enough. The federal government, with the passing of NAFTA, has destroyed our steel mills and destroyed our economy slowly over the past 20 and 30 years. The EPA has put restrictions on us that we cannot afford. It's time we have the president and the federal government and the state start allocating money to fix our water infrastructure and our roads. We keep hearing it from them, but they're not doing their job. As a young councilman, I'm not here to be their friends. I'm here to fight for the constituents. And if you elect me, I promise to fight to get more money allocated to this city to bring new industries like the hemp and the medical marijuana, and maybe investing in windmill technology where I see them being built on the east side of Cleveland, where we could build that here in Lorain. And it's time we have bold, progressive, new ideas that I'm willing to take on.
Thank you. And Ms. Garcia?
Yes, of course, I believe the citizens of Lorain have been taxed too much. We need fresh new ideas. We need new talent. We need to generate new revenue, new business. How about a new website that would attract new businesses? The big corporations, they need to pay their appropriate amount of taxes to generate the revenue that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. And that will conclude the last question. You will each get 1 minute in closing remarks. When we started going with Mr. Kazura, so we will start with Mrs. James at the end, please. You will have your 1 minute.
Thank you. I just want to thank Chip for this opportunity, and the residents here of Lorain, thank you for your support. Again, I'm Inez James. I've served this community for over 20 years. I am dedicated. I am ready day one. I am reachable. I'm with transparency, with leadership skills that will take this city to the next level. Vote Inez James May 7 for City Council at Large. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Chip for having us here today and the candidates that had spoke all the way from the beginning to the end here. This is great to see fresh new faces because it takes a lot of risk and guts to come out here and put your foot into the water. It really does. And it's awesome to see the diversity at this council at large. An African-American woman, Hispanic woman, Mary Springowski herself, Antonio Boris, Tony DeMacchia, and some of our other candidates. And it's important that we start seeing new faces in this community and have bold perspectives. It's time that we have people that are willing to have citizens speak at City Council. It's time we have transparency. It's time that we have the ability to go knock on doors. And the one thing that's very upsetting in this past election is the next election I run, I'm not putting a yard sign. I am not going to send mailers. The amount of money we're spending on campaigns in this country equal to, I believe, $80 billion. And if we're going to be the true Democratic Party, it's time we stop spending money and start putting it back in our communities. And it's going to start with the politician, because it's been upsetting the cost that it is for a young person to run for office. And it's time we take dark money, political influences outside this state, and inside this state has circulated money into this town, and I'll fight to get it out. I hope to have your vote May 7th.
Yes, again, I am president and CEO of Rita's Christian Academy for 19 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Lorain. I was educated in Lorain, graduated from Lorain County Community College. I have 5 generations here in Lorain. I have deep roots here. A new fresh face. I fill the crucial gap that we need to move Lorain on. When I was younger, we used to go downtown window shopping. We need to build up downtown Lorain. Everyone's attracted to the water and to new businesses. So I believe that's where we need to start. Rita, Lorain Council at Large, thank you very much.
My name is Mary Springowski. I've proven myself to truly be a representative of the people, and I have proven that I am their voice. I answer my phone, I return the calls, I'm out in the communities, everybody sees me in their neighborhoods. People reach out to me, and I'm there to help them resolve their issues. I've brought forth greater transparency in our local government by live streaming the council meetings, and I've always made myself available to answer questions. I'm the candidate that has introduced legislation to allow people to speak at regular council meetings. I think that the people appreciate what I do and have supported me because they know that I truly care about them. I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk at election time. I'm door-to-door year-round because I do the job of representing the people year-round. Thank you, and vote for me, Mary Springowski, on May 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's very important for us to take this moment and realize that, you know, Lorraine is right now in a very crucial, important moment. Things have been moving, but we need to move with more sense of urgency. That's what I want to bring to town. Also, my experience in the rest of the world, when I've been able to work in different countries in different languages and work on tourism, because I did a lot of that overseas. We have a gold mine here in the city of Lorain. I do not believe we're putting enough focus there. I want to redirect a lot of our attention there and resources and develop Lorain as a tourism spot. Cleveland and Sandusky, there are people coming from all over the world, to Northeast Ohio, and they're not coming to Lorain. We have to change that. So I am looking to do that. And my life in the arts here downtown, I've worked for over a decade on Broadway. I've worked with every community and every agency that's been downtown. I've helped develop parades and festivals myself just to bring that to town. So I ask for your vote on May 7th. Thank you.
My name is Mitchell Phallus. I am seeking re-election for my 5th term on Lorain City Council at Large. My background includes CPA credentials. I've been a CPA for over 2 decades. I have a master's degree in business administration. I've advised small businesses and large businesses over a 30-year career, and I really enjoy doing that. I started working for Vacation Land Federal Credit Union in November 2011. At that point, we were rated a C+ financial institution based upon the financial statistics of Vacation Land Federal Credit Union. In 3 years, with strategic ideas that I came up with and I was able to sell to our board and our senior management team, we got our credit union in a position where we are rated an A- in a 3-year period. I used those same skills in the city of Lorain. How is that translated? I just mentioned a little earlier, the city needs to be smart. They need to be strategic about the use of their vacant land. They need to do studies to figure out what the highest and best use of property is. Nobody here has given me that answer yet. I recently made some recommendations on the city to buy some property that was available for sale that was strategic. There's a company that's looking to, that already bought the power plant on the west side of Lorain. They are interested in brownfield and greenfield development. And I made some suggestions to the administration that we should pursue that company to see if there is any property in our city that they would be interested in developing. So from me, you get strategic ideas that I think will come to fruition that will, in fact, bring jobs to our city. Thank you. Appreciate your vote. Mitchell J. Phallus, Council at Large.
As your councilman, I will work hard to change the current culture in Lorain. I will be committed to listening to our residents and employees to resolve their concerns. I will be committed to increasing the safety of our community by supporting our local law enforcement and fire departments. I believe we need to evaluate our department resources and creatively resolve deficiencies in equipment and vehicles. Our Lorain Police Department is the largest law enforcement agency in the county and one of the best trained in Ohio. I will look at long-term policy goals that will include more competitive pay to retain the talent that is developed, cultivated, and trained in Lorain. I would also ensure that our officers have the resources they need to deal with the unfortunate opioid crisis that plagues not just Lorain, but the entire country. I think it's important that our city officials work directly with our school system, with the current House Bill 70 mess that is occurring here. Our city can only move as our school district does. Families aren't moving into our school district, so I think it's important that as a city we come together and support the school system and give it the resources it needs to fight off House Bill 70. I think it's important that, again, everybody gets out and votes on May 7th, and I certainly would appreciate your vote, and please vote Tony Damaki, your next council at large.
I am Joe Kazura, and I come from South Lorain from a family of 11 kids, a steel worker, and a Vietnam veteran. I was drafted Vietnam veteran, and then I was elected to various jobs serving the Lorain community and others. You and I have had a position of trust between each other, Lorraine and myself, and I am asking you once again to trust me, to know that I will do the best job anybody could possibly do. I have a track record of honesty and dedicated public service, and I'm proud of that, and I take that so responsible at heart. This city is on the precipice of some really good things, and I believe I bring to the table more assets for this community, and along working together, we can achieve great things. And I thank you for attending, and please, I ask you humbly for your vote on Election Day. Thank you.
We'd like to, I'm sure our president, who is very strong and service-focused, would like to thank yourself, so we'd like our president to come out and close our event for this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone coming out tonight, and of course to all the candidates. I wish you guys all the best. I also want to mention that our Hispanic Leadership Conference will take place on April 27th. This will be our 24th annual conference, and this year's theme is Awakening to Reality. As we conclude tonight, I'd like to thank, of course, Joe Bach, from Lorain City School, also Mr. Hardy, our CEO of Lorain City School, Mr. Daniel Garvey, the Executive Director of Lorain City School, and the operations staff for helping us here tonight. Our timekeeper, Pablo Senkis and Tomas Cabasa, thank you. Our greeters, Carmen Libes, Becky Rodriguez, Achilles Morales, and Maria Carrion, and Elizabeth Soto, our treasurer, is always here tonight. Again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. And of course to our panelists over here, Mike Ferrell, Iris Rivera, and Alicia Pardon. And again, vote on May 7. Your voice is your vote. Thank you.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.